Hi guys, Kirk here with Kirk, Giordano Plastering. My sons and I are going to show you something somewhat odd. We're doing a two-coat system here. We've already done the scratch and brown. That's not what I was going to show you guys. What I'm going to show you guys is this odd texture. The homeowner said, gee, how come we're so thick and how come we have such a weird texture? Now, check this trowel out. I'm going to show you how deep we are. I'm going to take it right here. We are 2 inches deep right here. I'll show you one more time. 2 inches deep. Now why are we so deep right here? Why do we have to feather from here to here? What they had here is they have a house about, I'd say, 80 years old. They had an original stucco job and somebody came back and what they did was they put a bonding agent on the original stucco job, which was 7/8 of an inch thick. Then they put another 1/2 inch to 7/8 of an inch thick. That's why in many places on this house here we have close to 2 inches thick. Close to, but not quite. 1.5 inches maxing out. We just did the scratch and brown. We're using a hot mud. I'll show you once more. You see how that trowel is embedded there? That's pretty deep, guys. Pretty deep. Anyhow, what I'm going to show you is the same thing they said. Well, how come the texture so odd? Well, they floated the walls. And what they did is, now that we're done with the two coats, which took us all day, what I do is I'm going to float these walls. And we take a green sponge float, and we want to get all the water out because this is so thick. So if I use a hard rubber float, now where I went over just now, I'm just going to float them out. If I used a hard rubber float, for example, what that would do is it wouldn't give me all the grit that they have here. In fact, it would compress it. So what I'm doing is I'm using this, and when I get full where this float right here is so full of sand that it won't work anymore, one of the things you can't see is we have 2 inches here. We have 1.25 inches here. This is all going to be feathered. This whole house it really takes a little bit of skill to do what we're doing here today, but the point is we got a green sponge float everything. We take this green sponge and we bring the aggregate out. That way we have the same base as these fellas did. So we're working on that. And another thing too, when you're doing something like this, and for example, if you're going to try to do same day stuff, well, same day stuff, leave it for the professionals. But if you're going to try to do even a scratch coat, you put on a 3/8 of an inch, your next coat is still going to be close to 1.5 inches. You'll want to hit this when it's drying out. And what I do is I take my float here, I'll clean it, I'll hit it, and now it's full of water. And if I hit this, it's so wet and that's so thick that it has a tendency to drop. So what I'll do is I'll find a fence like right here. I will get the water out of my float. I don't want this much water in it. And I'm not going to leave that. At the end of the day, I'm going to take my water hose and clean that. And now I have a clean float that's dry. It doesn't have a lot of water, so that when I come up here, and again, this is 2 inches, it was just applied, I can pull it upward without it sagging and falling all over the place. When I get ready to do the texture, I'll show you that too, because stuff like this where you have 2 inches, you're trying to do it the same day, you better know what you're doing, guys. Alright guys, we're not at the texture yet, but I was cutting out my screed and Jay said, hey Dad, you take that for granted. Why don't you show the folks that too? We have a drip screed here. The drip screed is to allow water to come out. I floated this out, say we float it out like that. And now that seals it. If somebody comes and they paint this, they destroy our weep edge. So what I generally do is I'll take my trowel, come here, and pull it out. Just like that. You'll take the trowel on the screed, you'll come here, and then you'll get rid of it. These are the little things we do. A lot of this stuff is just so second nature, I don't think about pointing it out, but we don't want to kill our drip screed. So we don't sacrifice cosmetics for code. That's code right here. If I were to clean it and make it pretty, that's cosmetics, but it defeats the purpose of a screed. Important. Anyway, we're going to show you how we texture in a few minutes. We're at the texture stage. So I'm using a very heavy texture. It's called La Habra 1620. That means it's a heavy grit. They have La Habra smooth coat, smooth mission rather, and they have La Habra 2030, which is very fine. I've got to match what these guys have here. Technically, I could match this particular texture with this cementous scratch and brown, but in order to show you guys how I'm doing it, I had Dan mix up some color coat. Now, again, say like this right here. I'll show you it. I'm going to take this whole wall, but I'll show you this part here. You look at the texture, you look at the consistency. Which way did this fella go? He went, like most people, right-handed. He's coming up and around just like that. So what we do is we start here, we stagger. We don't want to go one piece here and one here. I'll show you. We don't want to go here and then here because then it'll look like a straight line. That's not what they have there. So we stagger it. We come here, we put them all different directions. And when we come up to there, we tie it all in. Let me get some more mud, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now I have to get rid of my line here that I showed you folks what not to do. I did. There we go. We just tie that, get rid of it. We get a little bit of mud. Yes, I have a mud board all the way around the side of there. And what we're doing again here is we're tying in this bulging wall to here. It's going from 2 inches to 7/8. And that's the contractor actually lathed this job, and we're just doing the scratch coat, the brown, and the texture. I do that, by the way, folks. If you want to lathe your own work, feel free. There's not too much glory in that. We'll come in and just do the scratch coat, brown coat, color coat, whatever you like. But you got to know your cements, guys. You got to know what you're doing. It's very important that you know your cements. All right, I'm going to go ahead and finish off the rest of this, guys. And when I'm done, we'll show you the whole wall. All right, guys, we are complete. Jason and I are both spreading, and Dan's filming it. So anyhow, guys, you see where we're going with this. The transition between the two really defines how well it's going to paint out. Anyhow, my name's Kirk and Jason.
Hi, guys.
Dan on the camera, and as usual, guys, we'll see you on the next one.